Good morning and welcome to this year's Remembrance Live Assembly. I'm Waxy.
And I'm Ben, and we're in a studio in London this morning. Later on, we'll be meeting some people who can tell us all about remembrance and why it's important to them. And we'll also be finding out some of the different ways people remember. Today is Armistice Day, and this is a significant event at the heart of remembrance because in 1918, at 11 o'clock on the 11th day of the 11th month, it was agreed that fighting in the First World War would stop.
Since then, 11 a.m. on Armistice Day has become a time to remember the people who have served to keep us safe in many places around the world. So at 11 o'clock today, we will pause for 2 minutes. Some of you also may have done this yesterday at a Remembrance Sunday event. But who or what will you think about? Well, we have lots to discover and to share before then, which may give you some ideas.
Now, I love history because there's so much that we can learn from it. And this year, we're remembering some of the 80th anniversaries from the Second World War, such as Kohima and the Battle of Imphal in India, the Battle of Monte Cassino that took place in Italy, Operation Market Garden in the Netherlands, and the Battle of the Scheldt that took place in Belgium. A whole generation of people came together to keep our country safe.
It's also 80 years since D-Day, which saw the greatest seaborne invasion in history. During the summer, you may have seen on the news that some veterans travelled to France, where D-Day took place, for some special 80th anniversary events.
And whilst it didn't mark the end of the conflict, D-Day was an important turning point in the Second World War. In fact, it helped the Allies win because it marked the beginning of the liberation of Europe.
Absolutely. Lots of people did some dangerous and difficult jobs during D-Day, so we sent our friend Izzy to meet up with some young reporters from schools in Portsmouth on the south coast of England to see how they succeeded. Let's have a look.
Hello, I'm in Portsmouth on the south coast of England, and that right there is the English Channel. I'm here to remember D-Day. D-Day was a really significant point in the Second World War, and it happened 80 years ago on the 6th of June 1944. It was a key point because we, the British and the Allies, went back into occupied France to surprise the Germans. That meant thousands and thousands of troops having to cross the English Channel in secret. Lots of boats were like this. This is a landing craft, and they were designed months in advance of D-Day.
Hi,
And these guys are my reporters. Look at their cute little microphones. Do you have any fun facts about landing craft?
Many people got seasick. The landing crafts were designed to carry people and tanks. Loads of women helped to build landing crafts like this.
The landing crafts were sent out last to protect them from German U-boats.
Amazing, guys. Come on, let's see what else we can find out.
Yeah.
Look, the D-Day Story Museum. I bet we'll find loads of fun facts in here.
Yeah!
Remembering the details of war is really important, not just on Armistice Day, because by remembering these details, we learn about how to prevent war from happening in the future. It's details and artwork like this which is so important. The designer of this amazing embroidery was Sandra Lawrence. It is 83 metres long. That's nearly as long as the 100 metres they did in this year's Olympics. What's going on in this panel? There's a person here with their teddy bear, a little child. Why do you think that Sandra Lawrence put that in?
Because it's a very touching moment and the child is waiting for his father to come back from war.
Oh, that is a lovely touching moment. And what have you found?
Well, there's a building on fire.
Yeah, do you think that represents the Blitz?
Yeah.
Yeah, because that was the start of the war. That really made it important for us to remember why this war started and how important it was for the Allies to win. It is amazing, though, to think that all of this really happened. I mean, this is such a massive embroidery that's going... Oh,
Guys, look, we found something.
you found something? Come on, let's find out what it is. What have you found, guys?
This is a Rupert dummy. 500 of them were thrown out of the Allied planes.
Why would they do that?
These were used to trick and pull out the Germans, giving us time to land elsewhere.
That's right. We knew that the Germans knew that we were going to invade, but they didn't know where. And so we dropped all of these dummies to try and trick them into moving away from the beaches of Normandy, where we were really going to land. It was even better than that. Sometimes we blew them up. So they didn't even know that they weren't real people that had landed, so they went looking for them instead of guarding the beaches. Other times, actual SAS soldiers would drop down with the dummies and they would play the noise of battle, of gunfire and explosions, and the Germans would think, oh no, there's a battle, and so they'd run in the opposite direction. So this is an amazing find, guys. Well done. So what have you found?
A biscuit tin radio.
A biscuit tin radio. I've heard of these. They were used by actual spies. Why were they called biscuit tin radios?
Since they were radios hidden inside of biscuit tins so people could listen to secret messages.
That's right, 5,000 of these were dropped behind enemy lines so that people could listen to what was going on. Because if they listened to the BBC radio, they had these personal messages, but they were really a secret code. They would say things like, the long monotonous violins of autumn, and that meant, be prepared, D-Day's about to happen. And then, wound my heart with a monotonous languor actually meant D-Day was going to happen right now. It's getting a bit busy around here, chaps. I wonder how they send messages to spies nowadays. Why don't we ask the people in the studio? I wonder if they know. Let's say goodbye. Bye!
Amazing. Thank you to Izzy and her young reporters from Portsmouth. We're going to be seeing more of Izzy later and some different reporters too. But for now, we're here with Lieutenant Colonel Naveed Mohammed from the British Army and the lovely Meg Woodhouse, who is a Royal Air Force veteran. I mean, a warm welcome to you both.
Thank you, it's great to be here.
Thank you for the opportunity to be here.
Absolutely. Now, I want to come to you first. So you're from the Royal Corps of Signals.
Yes.
So can you tell us who they are and what they do?
So the Royal Corps of Signals was formed in 1920 and it's responsible for providing communications across defence, whether it be on operations, combat operations or humanitarian disaster relief operations. We do it all. We are known as the vital link.
And communication is so important in the armed forces. Now, in that film, Izzy was talking about the biscuit tin radio,
Yes.
and she was asking us, I wonder what a more modern equivalent might be. And I think you've got one right there, right?
That's right, the Panther radio here, which slightly a bit more chunkier version of the biscuit radio, but used by the British Army in the past, is really rugged. Can operate in temperatures from -40 to +70, so across many different environments. Can transmit secret messages. Can do a whole host of different things, and really signifies the importance of communications.
Yeah, and it's obviously a rule that radios just have to have cool names. Biscuit tin, Panther, I love it.
Indeed.
That is funny. And now, Meg, you worked as a photographer when you were in the RAF. And photos are a brilliant way of communicating messages as well, aren't they?
Yeah.
So, I mean, we've got an example of an aerial photo taken around the time of D-Day, not taken by you, of course.
No.
But what sort of things do photographers in the RAF take photos of?
A whole range of things, from secret photography to convey information, to photographing engineering equipment, to big military occasions.
Wow, that's quite a lot. I mean, we've got a few photos for everyone to see as well that are popping up here. I mean, this one is of Prince William speaking to a Second World War veteran. Why do you think it was important to capture this?
So I was actually lucky enough to capture this image myself.
Wow.
And I think it really shows the connection between an older veteran like Ken, who flew Spitfires back in the Battle of Britain, to Prince William, a much younger veteran who actually flew helicopters in his service.
Wow, so interesting. And we've got another one here as well of Sudan, I believe. So what have we got here?
Yep, so that was taken by a colleague, Sergeant Oldfield, and that shows the Sudan people being airlifted out of danger during times of danger, by the RAF.
Wow, so important. And I like this one here because it's you, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
You're in a plane, Meg.
It is.
Talk to
I
us.
was in a typhoon, actually, capturing photographs from other fast jets flying either side of me.
Wow. And why was it important for you to do that?
So I had to capture a joint exercise that was between the British forces and the French. So much like the Allied forces on D-Day, we still work closely with other countries now.
Right. Wow, I've learnt so much. Thank you so much, Nav. And also yourself, Meg. I can't believe how much I've learnt in such a short space of time about what the armed forces do. And we've got some more questions coming for you, so be prepared for those as well.
Absolutely. Now, many thousands of people from the British Army, the Royal Navy and the Royal Air Force all worked together to make D-Day a success. Some of them even planned together in a series of secret rooms and tunnels deep in the cliffs at Fort Southwark near Portsmouth.
Yeah. And amazingly, we were able to arrange for some Year 7s to chat to one of the people who was actually in the tunnels for months, helping to coordinate the D-Day landings 80 years ago. And her name is Mary Scott. And back then, she was just 17. And Mary was in the Wrens, which means she was in the Women's Royal Navy Service.
Yep, and the secret operation she was part of was called Operation Overlord. For Operation Overlord to succeed, the Army, Navy and Air Force had to communicate well and work closely together as one team. And you can even see King George VI here in Mary's amazing photo. And the King was actually involved in planning with Winston Churchill and described D-Day as the supreme test, by which he meant we only had one shot at it.
Yes. Now, on D-Day itself, Mary was to be one of the 9 switchboard operators in those tunnels at Fort Southwark, relaying coded messages between the organisers and the soldiers who were landing on the beaches. But whilst Mary knew there was a plan, when she flicked the switch on her radio to listen to the person she was speaking with, something surprised her.
My recipient was on one of the beaches at Normandy, and I was a bit shocked because the first thing I heard was almost incessant machine gun fire. Heavier guns, cannons, bombs were dropping. You could hear aircraft. You could hear men screaming orders. So it was chaotic. But you had a job to do, and you got on with it.
Hi, Marie. My name's Harriet, and it's a pleasure to meet you.
Thank you.
What was it like to overhear the soldiers on the beaches?
I'd lived through the Blitz in London, so I was used to hearing bombs and things like that. But somehow, hearing men amidst all the bombs, hearing their voices, made it rather more human. It was different.
Hello, Marie. It's lovely to meet a veteran of the war. I wondered, who do you remember on Armistice Day? Who do you think of during the 2-minute silence?
I didn't have anybody in the services, no brothers or anything like that. So when I think of World War II, I think in terms of all the people that participated and gave their lives.
Hello, my name is Evie, and it's great to meet you.
Thank you.
Why do you think it is important that all children today learn about what happened all those years ago?
Well, D-Day was a pivotal point in the history of our country and the history of Europe, because Europe had been occupied for all those years of the war. And the occupiers were people driven by a particular philosophy. They had to be defeated, so war really was inevitable, which is always a sad, sad situation.
Do you think being part of the war effort for D-Day shaped the person you are today?
Yes, I think it probably has. Afterwards, you realised how many men had died on that day. I still think of it, and it certainly did change me. I think on that day, I really grew up.
Did you keep in touch over the years with the other girls who worked alongside you on the switchboard?
Unfortunately not. But I did join the Association of Wrens after I was demobbed, and we had a local branch. So I had friends, some of whom were in the Wrens during the war.
Were you able to forget and escape the reality of war for a moment?
Well, that's a very good question, Evie. And yes, the answer to that is yes. They had American soldiers that came over from the United States to help our war effort. But the Americans have a totally different lifestyle to us. They used to invite us to their dances, and it was all very exciting. But I have to admit, I never learned how to dance the jitterbug.
Thank you.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
What a fantastic film. There's no doubt that Mary played a crucial role on D-Day. And thank you to our young reporters up in Morpeth as well for those brilliant questions. Now, Mary was just one of the hundreds of thousands of people involved in the D-Day landings. And you might choose to remember her and the soldiers that she could hear a little bit later on at 11 o'clock today. And I really feel that we're building up our remembrance library of people and events now. Did you know that some people choose to remember through writing? And someone who is an absolute expert at that is joining us right now. It is, of course, our awesome author, Tom Palmer, writer of over 60 books. Hello, Tom.
Hello, thanks for having me on, Ben.
It's brilliant to see you here, Tom. And I know that you've written plenty of books about football, which is a shared passion of ours, absolutely. But you also have done a lot of writing around historical fiction, and you've included a lot of real-life conflicts in your books.
Yes, I think it's really important to do that. I try always to base my stories on real-life conflicts. So I've done, like, the British Army, but I've also focused on the Royal Air Force and the Royal Navy, because I think it's really important to represent all the men and women who've fought for this country, and to remember them, as you say, by writing about them.
Absolutely. Now, we've got a few of your books here. D-Day Dog is one of them, and perhaps despite the title, it's not just about D-Day or a dog, is it?
It's not, and it's about a boy who goes on a school trip to the Normandy, to the D-Day beaches, and he's remembering by going to war cemeteries, etc. But also his father's about to deploy to Afghanistan, and he's got a conflict there of, like, being really interested and excited by war, but also fearful of it. And it's me trying to sort of find a way for him to balance the two, I suppose.
Yeah, and bringing together sort of conflicts from the past into the modern day as well. It provides a relevance, doesn't it, to the audience? It
does, and it's really important, you know, to remember men who fought in the First and women who fought in the First and Second World War, but also to remember things that are happening right now or in the very recent past.
Yeah, and we've also got your book, Angel of Grasmere, here. Can you tell us what this involves?
Yeah, so while researching my books like Armistice Runner and Arctic Star, I came across a lot of accounts of soldiers and airmen and sailors who had post-traumatic stress disorder. We know a lot about the physical injuries of war, but the mental injuries of war, I really wanted to go into what we now call PTSD, which was called combat stress, combat fatigue, or shell shock as well. And the main character in that book has that condition, and that's how it relates to the story.
Yeah, and PTSD, of course, is post-traumatic stress disorder, a condition that can occur from being in conflict. And some of the money raised when people buy poppies goes towards helping veterans who might be dealing with those issues. And indeed, your books do deal with difficult themes and subjects and things that can sometimes be hard to articulate. So how do you approach them?
It starts with respect, and we like to respect the people who've done those things for this country. And through the best way for me, it's really difficult. It's impossible to imagine being in a combat situation if you've not been in one. But it's my job to do that. So my way around it and to show that respect is to use testimony, is to use the words and memories of those who've taken part in these events. And that's where it begins, with that sort of respect.
Brilliant. Well, it's such great advice, Tom, and perhaps it's the kind of advice that young people who might be writing a remembrance poem this year could put into practice. And indeed, Mwaka is joined by just some writers who've done that right now.
Yes, thank you, Ben. And we are so pleased to share that we have some young poets in the studio this morning. I can't wait to hear everything you're going to read. And you know what, Tom? Come and join us.
Thank you.
Don't be a stranger. We've got Sufyan, Rahim and Hifsa, who are all going to read their remembrance poems. And Tom, could you let our poets know what you think, which might actually help some of the viewers at home think of some ideas of their own as well.
Happily.
So, you know what, Sufyan, why don't we start with you? What is your poem called?
In honor we stand.
Let's have a read.
In fields of red where poppies grow, we gather to honor those we know. Who bravely fought, who stood so tall. Who for freedom and peace, they answered the call. With hearts full of courage, we remember their fight, the sacrifices made in the darkest of nights. In silence we stand, hand in hand, for those who gave all to defend our land. In the light of their courage we find our way. Together in peace we honor this day. For those who are fallen we raise our voice. In remembrance and hope we make our choice.
Wow.
I think that was wonderful. I think the way you read it was beautiful. It was really moving, and I particularly like that you focused on for freedom and peace, which are things that we really should be pursuing out there. So wonderfully done, well done.
Yeah, well done, Sophia. That was amazing.
Thank you.
Right, Rahim, what is your poem called?
It's called A Time to Remember.
Can't wait to hear it. Take it away.
A cold autumn wind blows through the fields that no one knows, bringing hostile winds of November and a hint of things to remember. Rusty red flowers with seeds inside, prompt young voices to ask questions swept aside. Now with November winds here, we welcome with no fear. For now is the time to listen to stories that always glisten. A time to think, a time to remember every 11th of November.
Beautifully read again, and really, really moving also. A lovely poem. And for me, like the line in it about young voices and the questions young voices ask, I think that's so important that your generation engages with things through Armistice Day. So well done, fantastic work.
Absolutely. Thank you, Rahim. And Hifsa, what is your poem called?
In silent fields.
Take it away.
In fields where poppies gently sway, beneath a sky full bright and grey, we gather close, hearts intertwined, to honour those we've left behind. With solemn steps we tread the ground, where echoes of their courage sound. Each name's a story, each face a dream. In the fabric of our history they gleam.
Beautiful again, and like the words, the way you've used words there, wonderful and really moving. And I really like particularly you say each name's story, like there's so many stories out there, and what we're all trying to do is remember those stories and remember what sacrifices people made for us. And you all also in your poetry mentioned the poppy, which is like a really important symbol of today. So it's an honour to be here with you, so thank you all very much.
Oh, wow. Thank you, Hifsa. And well done, everyone. You should be so proud of yourselves as well. So moving. Ben, it's over to you.
Yeah, thank you so much. And what wonderful poems as well. And thanks for Tom's brilliant insight. Now, have you noticed our red poppies? They've been a symbol of remembrance since shortly after the First World War because red poppies grew on the battlefields. The red poppy is a sign of both remembrance and hope for a peaceful future. And wearing a poppy is a simple way to show your support for the armed forces and remembrance. There's no right or wrong way to wear a poppy. Some people choose to draw poppies to help them remember, and look out for some examples at the end of the assembly. Music's also a way we can remember. Here's Captain Tom Griffin, a conductor with the band of His Majesty's Royal Marines, to tell us more.
Hello, my name is Captain Tom Griffin, and that was the mass band of His Majesty's Royal Marines in concert. But what does music have to do with the armed forces and remembrance? Well, follow me back in time and let's find out. Musical instruments have been used in the military for thousands of years. For example, in the olden days, drums and bugles used to sound the retreat or the advance on the battlefield. I'm stood here by HMS Victory, the oldest commissioned warship in the world. And on such ships, there used to be a small band that would provide musical entertainment for the crew on board on their long journeys. During the World Wars, the drum and bugle signalling became more obsolete due to the invention of the radio and walkie-talkies. So music just became for entertainment. In the Second World War, the famous bagpiper Bill Millin performed his bagpipes on the beaches of D-Day during the Allied assaults of Europe from a vessel such as this, Landing Craft 7074. Today, music in the armed forces plays a crucial part of working with other countries and remembrance. You see, we all speak different languages around the world, and sometimes it'd be quite hard to communicate with each other. But music is a language that we can all understand, no matter where you are. Music can also communicate feelings, so on days like today, we use music to celebrate and remember those in the armed forces.
How amazing was that? And that last piece of music is known as a drum static. How much practice does it take to perform with that much precision? Well, a massive thank you to the Royal Marines for sharing their music with us today, and we'll hear a little bit more from them later on.
We will. Now, while Izzy was in Portsmouth, she met up with two other brilliant young reporters called Theo and Violet, and they were invited by the Royal Navy to go to His Majesty's Naval Base. All these years after D-Day, Portsmouth is still an important location for the Navy. And we also found a really special guest for them to meet.
Hello. Good morning. Welcome to HM Naval Base Portsmouth. I'm Claire, and we're going to go on HMS Ledbury to have a chat and have a look around. But before we do that, I've got somebody really important that I want you to meet. Is that all right?
Yeah. I'm so excited.
Let's go.
Izzy, Theo and Violet are about to meet someone with an incredible story. Alec Penstone finished his Royal Navy training in 1943. Alec served on submarines straight away, but was then assigned to HMS Compania. The ship played a vital role in the D-Day landings 80 years ago. But Alec had no idea he would be involved.
Thank you so much for coming to meet us, Alec. It's absolutely incredible that you can be here. Tell me, what was your job on D-Day?
I was a submarine detector. My job was to protect the ships going over to France.
So you were looking for submarines?
Yes, U-boats.
Wow. Theo, ask him your question.
Was there any panic on D-Day?
No, we didn't know what we were going into.
You couldn't panic because you didn't know.
Yeah, we were just doing the job we were trained for, and that was protect the ships in the convoy. And whether it was escorting ships to Russia or whether it was anywhere else in the world, we were done your job and carried on normally.
How much planning did you need to do on D-Day?
Well, to my knowledge, there was none for us at all, because I was sent down from Scotland and we were putting over onto western approaches. I mean, normally I was on the Arctic run, and that's what I fully expected to be. And it wasn't until the following morning, and I came up top to get some breakfast, and I saw trees, and I thought, well, where on earth are we? When I looked through the other side, all I could see was ships, hundreds and hundreds of ships. So when I asked where we were, well, nobody bothered to tell us until one of the signalmen came down from the bridge. I said, Bunce, any idea where we are? They said, yeah, we're off the Isle of Wight, I've seen the Needles. I said, what are we doing here? He said, I don't know. He said, there's an awful lot of ships around, and that was it.
Why is it important for us to remember?
Obvious thing, if it's not down in writing, when the last of us actually cross the bar, or die as it's called, for crossing the bar, then it's going to be forgotten. So we've got to make it part of our history, and I'm so pleased that the young generation are interested in what we done all those years ago. And I really commend them, because I've a better load of youngsters I've never seen in my life. My honest belief is the younger generation should know what happened 80 years ago. And let's hope that they live in a better world than what we've got at present.
Thank you so much, Alec. That was absolutely wonderful. We feel really privileged that you could speak to us.
Wow, I mean, isn't Alec's story incredible? And a massive thank you to him for making the journey from the Isle of Wight to see us in Portsmouth. So we've heard from two D-Day veterans now, one who knew something was being prepared in the tunnels near Portsmouth, and one who was surprised to find himself in the middle of D-Day. Now, Meg, you're a younger veteran than Alec and Marie, but yet you're still a veteran because you've served in the armed forces but are no longer serving now. Yeah. And I know you've been to lots of different places, experienced so many different things during your time in the RAF, but is there someone in particular that you might remember at 11 o'clock?
Actually, no, not for me, which might sound a little strange coming from someone who has served in the armed forces. But I choose to remember the armed forces community as a whole.
Right.
It is full of people that are ready to leave at a moment's notice. Sometimes they move far away from their families. They offer help to communities in need, and they're always constantly showing dedication and courage.
Wow.
Brilliant. And it's a really important point to remember, isn't it, Nav? Because not everyone will have a specific person that they're remembering, but they can remember the many, many people who have helped to keep us safe over the years.
Indeed, Ben. Remembrance means many different things to many people, and it can be marked in many different ways, whether it's about remembering someone in particular, or whether it's remembering those such as Meg and myself and others who are serving and who have served. So, as I said, many different things for many different people, but none of it's wrong.
Yeah, absolutely. And some of you watching might remember those who served in D-Day, but then others might think of those who served much more recently in places like Afghanistan and peacekeeping operations. And I know that's what a lot of people like to do, isn't it, Nav?
Very, very much so. You know, and one of the last names that's inscribed on the Armed Forces Memorial is of a young soldier who was sadly killed by an elephant while on counter-poaching operations in Southern Africa. So there's a whole spectrum of operations that service has been observed in.
Wow. And Nav, remembrance isn't just about feeling sad, is it?
No, it's also about celebrating service and celebrating those who commit themselves to the nation's security.
Wow. Well, thank you so much to both of you. I mean, we've learnt so many different perspectives which might help us understand more about who people choose to remember and what remembrance is all about. Meanwhile, let's go back to Portsmouth and join Izzy, Theo and Violet, who are looking for Claire.
Hi. Welcome on board. Hi, welcome on board. Hello.
Are you the captain?
I am indeed, and this is HMS Ledbury. Shall we go and find Claire?
Yeah, let's go. Yeah.
Hello again, Claire. Thank you so much for having this little chat with us and my brilliant reporters. Can you tell me, you've served in the Royal Navy all over the world. Where are the sort of places you've been?
So I've served for 27 years now. So I've been lucky enough to go to lots of countries around the world. The only place I haven't been, and I'll whisper saying this because the Navy might say we'll send you there next week, is around the Caribbean. So everywhere else in the world I've been. Some of my favourite places is Hawaii, and when I went to Japan, and I, just for fun, decided to climb Mount Fuji.
How long have you been away, and what's the longest time you've been on a ship?
So 9.5 months is the longest that I've been away on a ship away from the UK.
That is a long time. Have you ever been homesick?
I didn't used to get homesick when I was younger because my mum and dad and my siblings were at home and I just went away and did my job. But since I gave birth to my daughter, Alyssa, it affects me a little bit different. I don't like leaving her, but I do because that's what I joined the Navy to do.
What inspired you to join the Navy?
Well, what inspired me was my mum sent me to Sea Cadets when I was 14.
Oh, I'm also a Sea Cadet.
Are you?
I'm currently doing rowing and powerboating since it's the summer.
Do you?
Yeah.
So were you going to join the Navy?
possible.
Brilliant.
How do you remember people on Armistice Day when you're at sea?
We sometimes make the shape of a poppy on the flight deck, and we usually put those pictures out in the media because it's really important for us to remember. But the majority of us, sometimes it's just taking 2 minutes to yourself, if that's on the upper deck watching a sunset or a sunrise. Just having those 2 minutes just to remember is how we remember. The chaplain on board will do a service and there'll be a pipe at 11 o'clock and the whole ship will go silent for 2 minutes.
Who are the main people you remember on Armistice Day?
Even though we weren't there, it's really important to remember the people that died in the Great War and gave their life in the Second World War. And you spoke to Alec earlier, and some of his colleagues will have given their lives too. But I think it's just about knowing there's people that die in service, be that through illness or accidents, and we have to remember those. So I remember quite a few people from my service over the last 27 years. And Remembrance Day is really important for every one of us to remember those people who we've lost whilst in service. So if you see anybody in uniform, a little bit like me, and you want to ask them a question, just stop them and ask that question, because we want you to remember, ask us what we do today and ask us why it is important to celebrate the armed forces.
Thank you so much for this conversation, Claire. It's been absolutely fascinating. I think we've learnt a lot, haven't we, guys?
Yeah.
My pleasure.
Thank you to Izzy, Theo, Violet, Claire, the captain of HMS Ledbury, and to everyone at His Majesty's Naval Base in Portsmouth.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, earlier we promised some more music from the Royal Marines. You'll often hear a piece called The Last Post played at remembrance events. It's typically played by a bugler and was originally used to signal the end of the day's activities, but now it's also used symbolically to allow us to remember people in the armed forces who have died in service. Nav, I'd like to ask you, how does hearing The Last Post make you feel? Because it's such an iconic piece of music, isn't it?
Well, The Last Post is the prequel to the 2 Minute Silence. And for me, it's about preparing your mind, preparing yourself to observe what is a really important part of the act of remembrance.
Absolutely,
Wow.
yeah.
Wow. And Meg, what about you?
I often feel goosebumps throughout my whole body when The Last Post starts, and it makes me feel immensely proud of everybody that has put service before self.
Wow, that is beautiful. And you know, since this year marks the 80th anniversary of D-Day, the Royal Marines recorded a very special version of The Last Post on the Normandy coast. And you are the very first people to watch it. Remembrance is a personal experience and is for everyone. There is no right or wrong way to remember. After The Last Post finishes, we will have 2 minutes silence where you can remember the people who have served to keep us safe.
Thank you, everyone. And it just remains for me to say thank you to Izzy and all our young reporters in Portsmouth, to our incredible D-Day veterans, Mary and Alec, to our friends in the Royal Navy and Royal Marines, and to you, our studio guests, Meg, Nav, Tom, Sufyan, Raheem and Hifsa.
Thank you. And we hope that you have learned about who, how and why we remember on Armistice Day and at other times of the year. We will leave you with some more thoughts from veterans and a Royal Marines bugler performing Sunset, marking this year's 80th anniversary of D-Day at the British Normandy Memorial. From all of us here in the studio, goodbye.
I'm Jim Justice and I'm 98, a D-Day veteran. Well, I suppose it's important for anyone to know things about their own history. I think it's important that everyone should remember, not only children, everyone should remember to keep out of wars if possible. And there's no point in fighting anybody else because it gets you nowhere. It just causes heartache and trouble for everybody. And if possible, avoid all conflicts, I would say. If you can be happy through your life, it's something, isn't it, I think. And I think I've led a happy life. And I don't regret anything I've done. All I look back on is the good times.
We didn't quite know when, and we didn't quite know the extent. It was massive. You know, you think of a military operation, you have no idea as a civilian what that means. I mean, the previous day I had passed Portsmouth Harbour and you couldn't see an inch of water. The harbour was crammed with ships and boats. Couldn't see anything. So I had no idea that so many people were involved, thousands and thousands.